Hi everyone, welcome to Chapin Trebolero. It's Luis here, and today I want to invite you to travel with me to the heart of a story that transformed the economy and the landscape of Guatemala. The history of the railroad of Guatemala. Imagine for a moment it was 1870 and the president of Guatemala back then was General Justo Rufino Barrios. Now you can only imagine there was nothing here but meadows. But this story is about railroads, foreign companies, presidents, power, and the ever-changing story of the world. Well, as you can see, we're looking at the legacy. Now I want you to keep in mind that even when I mentioned those presidents, they didn't put the money. It wasn't the Guatemalans. It was money that came from foreign companies. It's called investment. And actually that's what's happening nowadays. We Guatemalans, we don't have the money. We don't have the technology. We don't have the know-how to do it. And so therefore, we need someone else's money. We need someone else's technology and someone else's expertise. So nowadays we are with a desire to have a train. We Guatemalans, we all want a metro system. We want development. And we want modernization. Well, if we don't have the funds, but we still wanted it, you know, there's people elsewhere with the money, and money makes it happen. So just like in the past, there was a lot of controversy, and then later abandonment. Keep in mind that the world is always changing. It doesn't stop. So the train in Guatemala back then, it was not only transport, and nowadays it isn't only transport as well. It is the memory of the older ones, the older Guatemalans who cherish that memory. But it's also politics, yes. Because someone has to be running the country. And it's also nationhood, yes. Because we want to feel that we're capable of doing it. So the railroads in Guatemala initiated back in the 19th century and ended its construction network in the 20th century. It was strategic national infrastructure. because Guatemala in Spanish, but in English Guatemala, needed modernization. And here begins the story of the train in Guatemala. The birth of the railroad under the presidency of Justo Rufino Barrios. Year 1870. So it was the Industrial Revolution happening at the time in Europe. France, of course, was going through industrialization. They wanted modernization. Electricity was invented in the UK. And the United States put it to use, and therefore stepping ahead of Europe during the Industrial Revolution. And that made all the difference on why the United States became such a dominant power and the biggest superpower in the world. So they wanted more, right? Like when you already have a lot, what is it that you want? You want more. So they came to the Caribbean and Central America. But there was a president here in Guatemala, Ubico. And his thought process was about business. He looked at the United States. They were going to give him what he wanted, a train. And they were going to get what they needed, land, lots of land. And that's how the IRCA, the International Rails of Central America, came to existence. Guatemalans at the time call it just IRCA to make it easy. Well, but back in the days, let's keep in mind that ideologies, now those ideologies were a lot more stronger. The beliefs, what people stood for at the time, it was a different outlook to what it is nowadays when it comes to politics. So Jacobo Arbenz came to power. Then he was overthrown by the US because they invested their money, and it makes sense, right? Anyone who invests money wants a revenue back. Otherwise, why would you invest in the first place? Now, it could have been renegotiated, because that's usually what you do, well, in developed and civil societies, right? If a deal is not working and it is of national interest, you renegotiate and you keep the deal, because we all need to make deals in order to have business. Otherwise, investment wouldn't occur. Now, let's keep in mind that there were lots of things happening at that time. Germany, the Nazis, the US, Europe. It was a lot. And Guatemala was there too. Yes, we felt the impact. But something else was happening, because industrial revolution has already taken place. And what happened when industrial revolution took place, Guatemala, just like the rest of the world, we started building roads, because now we have vehicles, cars, trucks. We had other means of transportation, and the train, the railroad was abandoned, yeah, unfortunately. So suddenly, IRCA started vanishing from Guatemala. FEGUA, Ferrocarriles de Guatemala, was not doing a lot when it came to investment, and the stations were left empty. No people coming to the stations because there was no service. And finally, in 2007, the train in Guatemala came to a stop altogether. And in brief, that's how the railroad and the train was initiated here in Guatemala, and how it ended. So it is a story of progress in the past, which still reaches the present and the future of Guatemala, and that progress is nowhere to be seen. We're still deciding on who is the right investment, who has the right investment, who is the right investor to come to Guatemala. Because there are lots of claims. Not this one because they want power, not that one because they want money, not those two because we don't know them, and certainly not us because we don't have the money we don't have the expertise, the know-how, and I think we don't have the willingness. What do you think? From Guatemala. Thank you for following me. By the way, if you want to watch this video, you can watch it in English, this one. You can also watch it in Spanish. I created the same video in Spanish, and you can also watch it in French. From Guatemala, I'm still waiting for the train or metro or tranvía or some kind of mean of transportation that can help us, save us time, make life better, because somehow everywhere I see, I don't see people moving. Well, we do, very slow, but we do. Well, till the next time with more stories from Guatemala. Thank you to my dear friend Mario Herrera for your support. And for anyone who wants to pitch in, I do have a PayPal. Thank you. I'll be traveling through Guatemala and sharing all those stories from Guatemala. Till the next time, be well. Luis Chapin Trebolero.